Beyond the Ribbon podcast, where we are creating an empowering and supportive community for women navigating the journey of breast cancer. My name is Lindley Harris.
And I'm Amy Smith,
your fellow survivors and thrivers. Whether you are currently facing a diagnosis, undergoing treatment, or adjusting to life after cancer, this podcast is for you.
Our mission is to provide raw, unfiltered insights and practical information to help you through every step of your cancer journey. We want you to know that you are not alone. We will journey together and we will heal together.
Welcome back for episode 9. We are going to continue the reconstruction conversation and learn about Amy's reconstruction, which was the Diep flap surgery.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's definitely I think more intense, but Diep flap is where they can take tissue from your body and reconstruct your breast from that. And it can be right off the top, I know Diep flap, and I believe that just means tissue from your stomach.
Yeah.
I think tram flap is, I don't know if it's arm or leg.
And then they can do the one from behind, like the back, and they twist. I'm not even going to go into that, but yeah.
Yeah. So, I just thought it seemed more natural. So I was like, okay, I think I'd do that. And then I would have a more natural breast, which has proved to be very true. So after I had finished radiation, I stayed flat for radiation, which helped with their access, I guess. So it wasn't until January that I got to reconstruction. My body had to heal from radiation too, so you had to have a certain amount of time. I did have minimal burn marks, I guess, from radiation, so that healed as well.
Was that about 6 months? Did you have to wait about 6 months?
It was close to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was trying to remember.
Yeah, I was doing it in the middle of the summer. Yes. So, and also, I was still healing from my mastectomy during radiation too.
For sure.
So, so I went in January of 2019 for my reconstruction, and I knew going into it that it was going to be a long surgery. It turned out to be about 11 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Which is wild. I feel so much for my family in the waiting room. I can't imagine what that was like. You know, just worried. So, but I went in flat. They took tissue from my stomach, and it was kind of in a football shape is how they explained it to me. So, I currently have one scar side to side all the way across, which going into my C-section scar is gone. You don't even see that anymore. So it's just the one scar across. But each breast where they were constructed from stomach tissue does have scarring all the way around to attach it. So once I came out of surgery, it was very important that they came in with the Doppler to make sure that all of the nerves had reconnected.
Yeah.
And that all the blood was still flowing and that it was accepting, So that was every hour. It was a lot.
Yeah.
But
wow.
It went well. It was good. I'm happy with the choice that I made. Yeah. It was a lot. And then knowing too that I chose this option also meant definitely there would come revisions with that.
Okay.
So, my surgeon and his team, I mentioned this before and I had got it confused, but this is the surgeon who cut every one of my bandages into a heart. So when I woke up, I had a lot of hearts on me, but it was just so kind because I was just we're not in any hurry, even after 11 hours. Yeah. We still care enough for the thoughtful things.
Yeah. It's really what sets this hospital apart. It truly is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's constant little reminders of things like that that come up and you're yep, this is, why I went where I did.
Exactly.
And this is why they are so good. Because if they care that much about the little things, the effort they're putting into research and to bettering themselves is unmatched. So I woke up, I had a really good care team, a lot of heart bandages, and I stayed there for a couple of days. And honestly, the hardest part of that for me was not being home with my daughter.
Of course.
You know, I think I was only in the hospital for one night with my mastectomy, but since I was there, I think 2 nights for my deep flap reconstruction, it was hard. You know, they came up, we had dinner, and then when it was time to leave, my husband was going to stay with me, and then it was a lot on her.
Yeah,
so,
it's hard. It is hard.
I just told somebody the other day, though, I'm so grateful that our kids were as young as they were.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a lot harder on them had they been older.
Exactly.
So, you know, everything happens how it's supposed to.
Yeah. I feel like it was rough for them in the moment, but as soon as you're back with them, it's like we're right back to our regular scheduled programming.
Right. It's not miss a beat.
No.
So it's nice because that makes it easier for us to bounce back. Because we could overanalyze everything. And we didn't.
Yeah.
And so when I came home from this surgery, I don't remember if I had 4 or 6. The bigger drains, like the biggest ones I've ever seen. Like normally we had JP drains, which are probably this size.
Yeah.
These were probably twice the size of that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I had 4 or 6 to be exact.
Because you had them up top and down low.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were still on the sides, but higher and lower. And so Kaylee would, for a while, like in the beginning, I would have Chris do them, and he was comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So he would get gloves on because the nurse had taught us, like, hey, it's easier if you get an alcohol,
like a swab,
right? Yeah, and you just take it, and that you just run it down, so it kind of gives you the lubrication.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, and it makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah, so hopefully that's a tidbit somebody else can use. You know,
definitely.
So he would put gloves on, and he would use that alcohol swab to go down. Just to get everything out of the line to put into the drain before he could empty it, because we want to count every milliliter, ounce, drop, whatever. Yeah. And so she would get her gloves on, and she would help do the other one or whatever. And she, to this day, does not remember that.
Aww.
But I do, and I was just glad because I was like, hey, this isn't normal, but this is our norm for right now, and she's just a part of it, and we're just living.
Keeping her included probably made her feel so much better.
Felt like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you were able to include her in something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever included my kids in that period of time, but it's because I did those things when they were either sleeping
and you could do it independently, which was huge. Yeah. No, I agree. I think, and if you had done it in front of them and they showed interest, then you would have.
Totally.
Because I think that's the biggest thing both of us learned is just to roll with it.
Yeah.
In the moment.
Whatever.
If they're there, they show interest, we'll include them.
Exactly.
You know, if not. So I got home, and you know the healing process was much better than what the mastectomy was, because I feel like that had already prepared me for just kind of like taking a step back, slowing down, not doing repetitive motions or moving my arms too much. So the healing was a little bit better because I kind of had that to go off of. So it was hard you couldn't be like vertical after. And so that was a really hard adjustment because, I mean, obviously everything's very tight. You have the scar across your stomach, so you feel like you're kind of hunched. And there's numbness all across the front of me, which to this day bothers me more than what I would have thought that it did. I just, you know, wish I wasn't numb like here to here, you know, like there's just a lot of numbness. But getting acclimated to sleeping was tricky. And I know with our mastectomy, like propping yourself with pillows and things like that. So I kind of had that to go off of. But I feel like I didn't sleep on my stomach for probably 7 or 8 months after, because you couldn't feel fully stretched out or extended because of that. So like I couldn't lay on the floor flat on my stomach. It was very tight and just uncomfortable. And it goes back to the numbness, I think, too.
Did you sleep in your bed after the surgery, or did you have to sleep in like a recliner?
I think I slept in a recliner for a while, too, because if I slept in the bed, my daughter would want to sleep with me, and I just couldn't risk.
Of course.
You know. Like, if she was going to sleep wild.
Yeah, and then you never know with the drains. You don't want her to tug on anything or pull on anything. That would have been
uncomfortable. Because those cords are still really long. I mean, sometimes that was like a task in itself, just to like contain the extra cording of that and stuff. So
yeah, that would have been not good.
No,
to do anything with that.
No, so I just kind of stayed in the living room for a while, and then like 3 months after that, I believe they know going into it you're going to have a revision surgery. Yeah, because it's your own tissue, how things settle and things like that, and they're ready to go do whatever you need to do to kind of like get symmetrical, and just make sure you're happy with it.
Yeah.
The biggest thing was when you have your like incision across your stomach, that it's kind of inevitable the way that it has to come back together. Your sides kind of become pointy, and so they refer to that as dog ears.
Oh wow!
Could have had a way cuter name.
Yeah, come on.
None of it's cute about it, but you know. And so I mean, there's just no way around it. So, I found myself wearing a binder after my surgery. I had done that too with my C-section. My grandma had recommended it because I feel like it's kind of like an old school thing. Yeah. But just like the compression and just holding yourself together made you feel better and kind of like ache less. So I did wear like a binder at times, but then I also found myself wearing that binder just to like keep my sides from not, from like, sticking out. So
what does that actually look like? Do you mind describing? I don't even know what a binder truly looks
like.
Oh,
a binder? So basically it's a Velcro closure. Okay. And it can be different heights or whatever. And it's just like, kind of like an A-strap bandage. Okay. It's stretchy. And you just like wear that around your midsection. It could be like a corset, but it's all stretchy. Okay. And closes with Velcro. Okay. So did you wear that? Was it like from here down or like mid stomach to down? Like how did that? It was like one size that I had, so it was probably like this tall, and I would just wear that where like it felt comfortable, but mostly for like my incision and then like my sides. Okay. Yeah. That's just until I was healed, and then my first revision, obviously, I went back in primarily for like the dog ear, fixing that. They did do, I don't know if it was first surgery or second, kind of like some like liposuction to like fat graft to where they could kind of even things out, add some fat to areas to make sure everything was full and symmetrical. And then from that point, I had a really simple office procedure. I just felt like they weren't symmetrical, and I was like, like, is there any way that we could just get them to look more? And they're like, yeah, which everything's easy to them because they're just wonderful at what they do. Yeah. So I was able just to go into his office and with the same care team I was familiar with and sit on the table, and they did do a numbing shot, which I was like scared though. So I was like, maybe I don't need it, but I was like, just go ahead. And they, it was on my left breast, to kind of like raise that one up more. So they're like, what we'll do is we'll just make an incision and we'll take a triangular piece out and then bring it back together. So then it'll like lift naturally or whatever. Okay. So they did that, and it was a good experience because I didn't feel anything. Good. But it was just wild that I was just like laying there, we're just talking. Yeah. There's smoke rising from,
Totally. That's exactly what it was like when I had the rope, but I called the rope taken out.
That's what I thought of.
This is just how weird I am. The light has like a mirror in it.
So you're
I was like trying to figure out, like, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? I want to see, like, what's happening. I think they knew that that's what I was doing because I was like, oh, they were like talking me through it because they knew that I was like so curious. But that's just back to the control piece.
Yes.
Like, knowing what's happening when it's happening is so much more settling for me than not knowing and feeling like I have no control over what's happening in this situation.
Right.
So that's funny you bring that up. But I'm sure that it was like odd to be laying on the table, talking, having,
But it's so like comforting to know like how confident they are in what they're doing, and they like at this point feel like they're your friends. Yeah. Like it's just didn't even think anything of it. I'm like, it's a weird experience, but these are my people, so it's okay. Exactly. It was just really good. And I don't think that it was like super common for a lot of people to have had deep flap, and I had looked online at things, and I feel like mine looks, which obviously I'm very biased, but my surgeon, I feel like, is probably one of the top in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what he was able to do is one of the best that I've seen on what I found on Google and all these things, you know, and I couldn't be happier with that.
Yeah. No, that's great because it is such a big surgery. Like, that's not something that you decide on, you know, real quick and it's like, yeah, but that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and it
like,
makes me like,
time.
So surprised that they're willing to take the time to do that when it could just be, you know, everyone get implants or, you know, that kind of thing. So it like, it's amazing to me that they're like, we would be glad to do this for you and take the time. And can you imagine how small all of the nerves and blood vessels and things are that they had to? No. I wonder seriously how many there really even are.
Yeah. And you know, that's something that's really funny that you bring that specifically up because the piece that made me uncomfortable with doing this particular surgery, not only was it what I said in the last episode where, you know, it's the strenuous surgery and it's like I didn't really have as much tissues to work with, but they acted like they could figure it out. I'm like, I don't know. What am I going to do? Eat a bunch of cheeseburgers for a bunch I don't know what I'm supposed to do here.
Right. But where would that come from?
Yes, but the piece that really worried me the most was the way that procedure is actually done. What they do with the tissue and how it gets realigned in this space. If you haven't looked this up, go ahead and do that. There are videos online. I don't want to go too deep into it, but it's just that part of it was really nerve-wracking to me. I just felt like, especially because of the way my mastectomy went.
Absolutely.
With the extra bleeding that I had to go back into it was just a lot. I personally don't think I would have been able to handle it the way that you did. But that's, you know, that's the difference between my journey versus yours. There's always a difference.
And that was very fresh for you. That was so recent as well.
Yeah.
And that's okay and it makes sense. But I do feel like you made the best option or the best choice out of the options you had for your body.
Of course.
And I think that's so important.
And same to you. I feel like what you decided was, you know, it was obviously not the same. And as easy as it would have been for the two of us to just say, okay, well, what are you doing? It's almost like, you know, when you're a kid and you're like, what are you going to wear to the party?
Absolutely.
Like,
let's
you just
do what's comfortable for both of us.
Exactly.
So then we can find comfort in each other.
Exactly. So it's very bold for you to make that decision and not really have somebody to go ahead of you or to even really see that stuff online, like you said. There really isn't a lot.
I feel sorry to say this to you, but this was like the first experience I had where I didn't necessarily have someone like you have everything before me, and I wish I could have like taken that from you. I do have a very close friend of mine that she's older than me. She's a grandma, and the second she found out that I was leaning towards D-flap, she said, "Come over." She's like, "I'll tell you everything you need to know. I'll show you."
That's awesome.
I don't remember if she was. I want to say somewhere between like 5 and 7 years out from it, maybe. Okay. But I'm like, oh my goodness! Like, thank you for telling me everything and just telling me the things I didn't even know that I should have asked and things like that. It just helped me feel so prepared. And I was just, so grateful for that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And one point of that I didn't realize and you don't think of, again, because none of this was on our radar for our lives, is the nipple talk.
Yeah.
I thought that they were just going to save mine from my mastectomy. And then they're like, no, cancer cells can also be in the nipple region. So you have to. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, I don't want that.
There's no nipples.
Yeah, no.
We are not, we have none of that.
No. And then there's other options they presented. And I don't know, was this presented to you with your type of reconstruction is where they can use your own tissue and they just kind of like
twist it.
And
they did. And I remember saying, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm good.
No, I don't need that. This is one of the nice things that we don't have to worry about that because that was never something like
You know, that's actually funny you bring that up because I went to that appointment with my husband and the doctor was going over all of the options for the nipples. And he was like, so what do you think? And my husband, without even skipping a beat, was like, we're not doing that. Like, didn't even look at me to see what I wanted to do, just was like, we're not doing that. And I actually,
This is not what I expected from him.
Yeah.
By the way.
No, okay. He was just like, no, we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking in that moment, I was like, wow, he just like took the words out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to do any nipple reconstruction. There was no need for that for me personally.
Right.
Of course, it is something to adjust to because it is not like what it looked like before, right? Like, it doesn't even resemble necessarily what it looked like before. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a very interesting moment. I remember the doctor kind of looked at him with like a little puzzled look on his face, as if he's just like, well, this isn't your decision. But it was his decision. It was our decision. Like, I needed him in that moment to discuss that with and figure out what the best decision is for myself and for him. Right. Now, if we disagreed, I that would have been a conversation. But we were definitely on the same page, and I just thought it was very interesting that he was just like, yeah, we're not even gonna worry about that.
Yeah, like I said, that surprised me from him, you know, because there's your husband's serious, which is very rare, and then there's funny husband. So I feel like I'm glad that he took it seriously and that you guys were in agreement, because that's a hard decision to make because it's not ever a conversation you've had to have before.
No, and it's not something we talked about before we ever got to that appointment.
Yeah.
So it's not like we were, in conversations about it. It was just like he knew what I wanted to do. And I think he wanted me to do what I did. Yeah. Of course. He was like, that other surgery, the one that you did, it is very strenuous. It's a bigger deal. And so to be on the same page with your spouse is so nice, because if you're not, it is a challenge.
Yeah.
But were you and Chris on the same page when you guys made the decision to do this?
Yeah, he was very supportive as to like whatever I wanted to do.
Yes.
And that's really like what it came down to.
And then even with the nipples, like the nipple just conversation, like did you guys discuss what you thought would be best for you?
I didn't give him the option with those.
Oh, you did?
I did not want the tissue reconstruction. Okay. Because to me, I'm like, that just kind of seems like a hassle. You know what I mean?
It does.
I don't know, because I'm like, I would just be covering that or whatever. Yeah. Because they would be essentially there all the time.
Of course.
Kind of deal.
Yeah.
So, I was like, I'm just gonna like write it out right now. And then I opted, and also through my, oncologic plastic surgeon's office. They had a nurse there that could do medical grade ink tattooing.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and did,
which is, by the way, covered under insurance.
Yes.
It is covered under insurance.
However, you have the medical grade aspect of it. So it's proven not to last as long.
Yes.
And I don't know that the training at that time was comparable to a local tattoo artist that specializes in areola tattooing. Yes, and she back at the time used to work for my plastic surgeon's office as a nurse, but felt so passionate about it that she took it out to her own business to offer like the tattoo grade ink that would be more permanent type of thing. But then also partnered with a different hospital in our area to do that.
Yeah, and she probably knows kind of how to handle that situation with somebody that's going through, a very vulnerable time.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was interesting, but it wasn't like an option for me at the time. So I was like, let me try this. And so it was like funny because me and my husband went, and normally what would feel like a day date or something, we went and we got areola tattoos done and listened to some music, and it was just in the like procedure room. It was very like low key. Awesome. They have since faded a lot.
Yeah.
And but now I have friends of mine that you as well opted for nothing.
Yeah.
And I was just so worried that if my daughter was to see me, that I wanted it to be normal. Well, I mean, I'm private in the sense of like changing and things because she is so young, and so she's never like, that conversation's never like come up, or it's never presented itself, which I'm grateful for. But I think that was my main factor.
Yeah.
It's just how it would be for like him and her.
It's
now
actually something that I worried about too with my kids.
Yeah.
But they've never really once said anything. I've had one conversation with Kate, mostly because she's so into babies and she like knows that like your breast can feed a baby. Yes. And now that she's gotten a little bit older, she kind of is like, well, you don't have that. So what's the, you know, but she doesn't, I don't know that she fully gets it even now, but she's only 8. But that's really funny that you said that because I actually was really worried about it as well. But you know, something that surprised me was they never really batted an eye. Even when I had the scar, like the scar doesn't look the way that it did then, you know?
Yeah.
It's not nearly as pink and as vibrant as it was.
Yeah.
And they still don't, they just never even batted an eye. But maybe that's
thank
the
God
beauty
for that. That's the beauty of when they were so young.
Exactly. They didn't have a clue. Because
I didn't want to give her more information than she needed or could handle. Like she was a baby or a toddler, you know, and so like I just want to get through this and heal myself and be there for her in the ways that she needed me to be. Yeah. And not let this like keep us from doing that.
Absolutely.
But it's so hard because it's like we want to prepare them, but you can't be their friend and tell them too much, you know, with anything. You just have to kind of like address it as much as you feel like you need to in the moment.
Exactly.
And it doesn't always need to be a lot, which is easy to like overanalyze. So I had that done thinking like for their sake. But now, and since they faded so much, I'm like, it is not important.
Yeah.
It means nothing to me to like have them, and I'm not worried about it. I did go a couple weeks ago and met with my plastic surgeon, and I just wanted to see like what we could do. I feel like it's been just about 7 years.
Okay.
So I was just like, hey, I just want to touch base. Like, I teased and I was like, they're maybe cousins. I know they're never gonna be twins, but you know, like just something to get more symmetrical, and that's always the goal. But with this and with it being my own tissue, it settles much differently.
Yes.
And it can also fluctuate with weight loss or weight gain.
Of course.
Things like that. So
were you originally like 100% satisfied with your decision when you first did it, and then now over time you're just starting to like see things that you wish you could change?
So I feel like
okay.
Because I remember the first picture I took in the mirror. I mean, like the first time I took my dressings off, me and my husband were both like, wow, like how in the world they could do that?
Yeah.
I don't know, you know. It was a lot of like post-care at home as far as like the bandages. I don't remember what they were called. And I don't know that we maybe had them for our mastectomy, but it was like the yellow, narrow, like strips.
The little steri strips.
And were they like, did they have like an ointment on them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have had to do those all around, both sides, for my scarring to help heal and things like that. And then it was harder for me to heal under the fold of the breast, because how can you keep that out of the way to let it
heal, when gravity is like pulling. Yeah, no, totally. I get that.
So I mean, there were like things with that I hadn't faced with mastectomy.
Thought about that being a problem.
Yeah. Wow. So there was like a time where I went back because I was like, hey, I don't think this is healing or whatever, and just reevaluating that. And it's so hard because through it all, they're like, the more area you get to, the better. And I was like, well, I got people in my house. I can't really just
walking around.
Which would be ideal if you could, or or like if you could sleep and then get aired that way or something.
Which is also uncomfortable if you're somebody that likes to be like warm and
And I've always been, I feel like, a modest person. So that was even more like tricky.
This definitely teaches you though it's like that's out the window in a lot of cases with this.
It is. And honestly, because cancer is like so scary and in your face, it's like
it is.
Okay, like you don't think about like your needs. You're like, okay, this is what they need to do to help me feel better, and I guess it is your needs, but in the moment, it's like not really even about you.
No.
In a way, you're or that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I forget where I was at.
Something I wanted to mention, and I don't think I did this in the last episode, is there is such a like some people have this thought that when you discuss plastic surgery of any sort, like it's a very like sexualized thing. It's like, oh, you're getting new boobs, like cool, you know.
Even the term implants give that, you know, and that is not.
Yeah, it's really not what this is. And honestly, it is so hard to sit and look at your body and see what you're unhappy with, and then also, you know, fix that, which is extremely difficult, and then come out on the other side and have to adjust to the new normal. And as much as it might look a certain way, like I know, you know, for example, like if I put a bathing suit on and it's a tight bathing suit, it makes this like pop out the top, and it's like that's just not really who I am.
Right.
I don't like to share that sort of thing with you know, a lot of people. I feel like that's a very sacred thing to me, so being very modest in that way.
Yeah.
But and I've also found myself wearing different clothes because of what I am working with here. I like things that are higher neck. When before this all happened, I probably wore like a V-neck shirt or a scoop neck shirt, and maybe I do every once in a while, but like I truly don't. That's just not like where I feel comfortable.
I relate to that 1,000%, and I think that's the thing is where my scars are higher because of my reconstruction. I'm like, well, there goes any type of like low shirt or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I never did before, but just knowing the limitation.
Yeah.
Is like when you don't get a choice. Like that sucks.
Yeah, you
know?
You don't get
but
a choice.
I also wouldn't like go anywhere with my boobs out anyways.
No,
but it's the idea, you know, or even if like which I can't say this is like happened, but like if you were in a wedding as a bridesmaid, you know, and you don't get the choice of the cut of the dress or just situational things like that.
Yeah.
And like you said, it is very sexualized when it comes to like plastic surgery, and the word implants. But like, what do you think of when you hear reconstruction? Because that is what this is.
Yeah, it's not.
That is not a pretty word.
No.
And that is like on so many levels, so much to it other than just gaining boobs, I guess.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, to the women who watch this who have had plastic surgery, like I commend you for doing what is best for you.
Yeah.
I just hope that people will understand within the process of listening to our podcast that this is actually a really hard thing to go through, whether it may seem easy. I think I could even probably take fault for that I might have made it seem like it was an easy process, but maybe physically it was. Overall physically it wasn't. I mean, it was a challenge, don't get me wrong, but I do think the mental piece of this, so that's the part that is extremely difficult, and you deal with that on your own. You deal with that with when it's right for you, and obviously when you get up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror, or you're in the shower, it's in your face, right? Like we are constantly being reminded of what has changed with our body,
right.
And just understanding that, you know, it is normal to feel uncomfortable no matter what the decision was that you made, if you choose to do reconstruction or not.
Yeah.
I just hope that people know that it takes time to adjust. So give yourself a little grace and be patient. And if you don't like something, say something, right? Like there are options. And that's what you said.
And you'll know if you're in the right hands because like we said, it was never an issue to express our concern with our team.
Exactly.
Because they were the most understanding people. And they would even like at times be like suggestive of, oh, okay, well this, you know.
Yeah.
And it was just, you'll feel peace. You'll feel content. But like you said about grace.
Yeah.
In anything. Like we forget to give ourselves grace. We forget to be like easy and kind on ourselves.
Yeah.
You know.
But I think that's also just like the time, like the time that we are living through. Everything is so instant. It seems like, you know, all you have to do is like click the filter button and then you don't have any acne on your face and you look beautiful. Like it's like, you know, we want that instant satisfaction, and unfortunately this whole process takes a lot of time, and it really does, you know, over time feel more and more like you as you get adjusted to your new body. So do you feel like it took you a little bit of time to kind of adjust after things settled down from the surgery? Like do you think like, for me, I feel like it took me probably like 4 or 5 months to really feel comfortable in my body. I was able to sleep in a different position than I had been. You know, like there were certain things that I just finally like kind of, okay, I can take a deep breath. This is who I am now, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'm gonna own it because I feel like the most confident version of me within the circumstances that I'm in.
Right. And that was like robbed from us for a while. So it's hard. But I do think that it took a while because I'm like, okay, well, I have to heal all of my scars.
Yes.
Then I had a revision, heal from that. Then I had another revision. And I knew that was part of my plan, but it's easier said than done. There's never a good time to not be 100% in your role as a mother or working, whatever. So I feel like that was part of it. And so I would highlight the good things. That's how I would get by. I would highlight the good things. And that probably got on people's nerves, but I'm like, I'm going to find the good in today because that is what I need to move forward. And I did struggle mentally at times because I'm like, you know, just getting dressed until I had that first revision surgery. I'm like, didn't like wearing any, you know, my clothes and things like that. So, but it's all a process, and it's all about like finding the good in that moment and moving forward and knowing that this is temporary.
Yeah.
And giving yourself grace in the process of it is huge.
Yeah. I think one of the hardest parts for myself was that first summer after coming, you know, off of the implants being placed. I, you know, now I have all of these bathing suits or things that I had worn in previous years. Realizing that, you know, my scar shows in certain things, and I didn't feel comfortable in those things anymore.
Does it show on the side or toward like in the front?
So if you had any sort of V-neck, anything, like the scar shows, and like they tell you not to put the scar in the sun because it like really does not help.
Right.
It really can affect your scar. So, you know, I try to keep that covered, and it's like you have to like adjust to that. And then, you know, maybe I particularly had a bathing suit that I really liked. My husband loves this bathing suit. He's always like, how come you never wear that bathing suit? And I'm like, I just don't think he understands that the color of the bathing suit is so light, and it's it's like a thinner material. It's not like a thick, you know, some bathing suits have that thick material. This is a little bit thinner. But you can see my scar right through it.
Really?
And so that's always affected me whenever I would wear that particular bathing suit, because I'm like, I don't necessarily care what other people think. I honestly don't like what I think. Like, I don't feel comfortable with the way I look in that bathing suit, and I don't feel like my most confident self in that bathing suit. Now, do I still wear it? Yes, but I wear it in certain times when I feel the most comfortable, and maybe when it's just like me, my husband, and my kids. Like, I feel okay wearing that bathing suit. But I've tried several things, like the inserts in your bathing suit, but that stuff shows through, and then it's like, what are you covering? It just looks awkward.
Have you ever, and I'm sure it's probably an option, have you ever thought about having like your scar lightened?
So I don't know if it would honestly make a difference. I've heard of people doing this.
Yeah.
But my scar is actually fairly light. It's not necessarily the color of it. It is the indentation of it. It's like you visible. Can see that where it is. Like it's just somewhat of just like it's like a gray line almost that kind of goes across my chest. And I'm comfortable with the scar. The scar's not the problem. Right. It's really just the way that it looks within this particular type of bathing suit. So I feel like that the mental health piece of this topic is, you know, just keep in mind, like, not everyone that goes through this is, you know, mentally okay with where they're at. I mean, it might take some time. Like, do you feel like that was the biggest challenge for you throughout this process?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I think just like, and it came in different stages and forms as far as like, you know, because it started with the hair loss.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, and I struggled with, because I always usually wore a hat, and I was like, I only have these certain ones. They don't match all of my outfits. I just want to like look cute and feel like I look cute. And so that was a struggle. And then, you know, it happens in different ways, but you do eventually work there because again, it's mostly all temporary.
Yeah.
You know, and in your case with that particular suit, that's hard because I don't know, you that there is a solution to that.
I think there are now.
Yeah.
There are now, but I'll mention them in the comments. Okay. I don't know if we can mention them on here at this moment, but there are some companies who have come up with things like really, honestly, very innovative ideas to help with people who have been in our shoes. Yeah. And I really do appreciate that. And I'm actually hoping this next,
that'd be a good option for you to try.
I really do want to try, because I think that if I can, cover the scar, that's also the other thing. It's like, I don't really want the scar to be in the sun, because it gets darker if it's in the sun.
Yeah.
And, the darker it is, the easier it's going to be able to be seen through clothes. So that's just my goal personally, which for you, your scar being that because it's rounded, correct? So what do you do to like keep that protected in your clothing or in your like situation, like with your bathing suits? Do you just have a certain bathing suit type that you wear, or?
I basically wear like all high neck now.
Okay.
Like, I mean, you can see my port scar, and I love that because I feel like that's like a conversation. If someone wants to see it, I hope that like seeing that would help somebody.
Yeah.
But as far as like my breast scarring, I just wear higher neck things. Yeah. And I've really found some that I really like. So, I just gravitate to that. And then, I mean, I put sunscreen everywhere anymore. I've worn more in the last 7 years than I probably have my entire life.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I even put sunscreen underneath, like on my chest, because I know that like I think you mentioned this a couple episodes ago.
During the radiation episode.
Yeah. That the sun can still get through your clothing. And so I do try to keep as much sunscreen in that space as possible, especially on the scar line. So that's just peace of mind, truly.
Yeah. But overall, I'm very grateful and very glad with the option that I chose, and just the confidence I have in my team. I just, all in all, just really, really glad. And I knew going into it that there were going to be revisions. But I'm just happy to say that it's not until like 7 years later that I'm like, maybe. But it's also, I could live with it and be fine. Because I think it's really hard for me to do something for myself like that. And to be like, okay, I'm going to be down for this amount of time. Because before it was kind of like part of the cancer journey. I didn't necessarily have the choice. I had to get myself back. And, to myself. So now I think it's harder because I'm like, I could just live with it. It's not even like anything like big, but
if it's something that's going to make you happier and you more comfortable, I think it is necessary to take the steps to do that for sure.
Yeah, and I think it sounds very minimal from the healing perspective. So
So as of today, you and your physician have a preliminary plan to move forward with some revision. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know if it's going to be something that you'll have to do in the OR?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have a date set.
Oh, okay. I didn't even
tell you that.
Yeah, you didn't tell me that.
Because it is scheduled really far out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's a year from now.
Okay.
Really? They're scheduling 13 months out, but I was able to get about a year out from now.
Okay.
So yeah, and it seems like he's just so friendly, and so we're just talking about waiting to talk to his scheduler. He's like, yeah, just let her know I need like 2 or 3 hours in the OR, and we'll go over to the main area and have it over there, and then you'll go home from there. And this is the cool thing though, is he said, how the restrictions always like you can't lift a gallon of milk, you can't reach in your cabinet. He's like, you'll be able to lift a gallon of milk, you'll be able to reach, just don't overdo it. But it's also like you've been through this enough to know.
Yeah.
So
that is awesome. That's so great that that you guys were able to come up with a plan and figure that out.
It's like that many years never even passed either. I just like walk in his office, and I mean it's just so familiar, and it's amazing. I truly believe they remember you, and I don't know how. Yeah. Because it is just like so familiar every time. So we talked about just like things symmetrical, and I was like, they don't necessarily need to be like this size if we could do that. So it just seemed very simple.
That's good.
little fixes. I don't know.
Well, good. I look forward to hearing about how this process goes.
I'm definitely going to be like very open about it to continue to go with our mission.
Of course.
So,
yeah, no, that's exciting. I would love to continue to learn about your process and how that looks. Especially because if we can connect with somebody who's trying to make this decision of what to do, this is going to be so helpful to them, and to hear kind of how you've adjusted over time and what has changed and how you're going to fix that, and to remain the confident person that you are. So, man, I'm so happy that we did this, because I've learned so much from this process.
Like, I know, same as yours, and it's so funny because we have been friends for so many years now. I've had so many conversations because we don't shut up the minute we're in front of each other. But it's so funny because I never knew so many different things about your story, as far as your reconstruction with the port, the magnet, that stuff, things I don't think of to ask. So it's so nice to do like a tell-all, and
which is nice, because I think when you sit down and have the detailed conversation that we've had, it's not only is it. I mean, I genuinely just want to know every little detail about what's happened with you. But learning, I feel like I've learned so much, and now I feel like I have so much more knowledge just from hearing your story, especially about the radiation episode. That is something that has like weighed on me for years, not really knowing the details, like the nitty gritty stuff about it. But I'm just so grateful to know, and I hope that the information that you've shared, if I connect with somebody and they have questions, I feel like I can utilize that information to help them, and I hope that I can direct them your way, and we can really have that impact on the next person.
Yes, I completely agree. And I'm just so glad that. The only thing is like, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm like, sometimes wish we would have done this sooner. But I think we had to be at this point in our journeys, because it's still healing for us. This far out. The only thing is just not remembering as much as maybe what we had hoped. But I think we put those pieces back together to make, the full story of our journey to really lay it out for somebody.
And I think too, because we, as we close this episode, I know that we're going to move forward with discussing kind of the infusions that we went through, and then the mental health piece of it. It's been 7 years for us. So it's taken 7 years for us to share our story and be detailed about it. And I think that that's why it has taken this long. So I look forward to having that conversation. I hope that what we continue to share is, impacting somebody. Because it's truly a healing process for both of us.
It is.
For sure, myself. Like, I'm healing through this journey with you.
And I think our tagline, journey together, heal together. There's no time frame on that. So, I'm just grateful for this opportunity.
But we look forward to connecting with you guys, and please let us know if you have questions. You can just leave comments below, and like I said before, our next episode, we're going to discuss the mental health piece and the Herceptin infusions that we had, and we'll just keep this going. So thanks for joining. Thank you for listening to the Beyond the Ribbon podcast. Our mission is to empower and support those affected by breast cancer. If you feel led to donate and support our mission, you may do so by clicking the link in our bio.
Don't forget to follow and share our content to help spread awareness and support. Remember, we journey together and we heal together.